Greetings, my friends. It's your friendly neighborhood PhD, Dr. Judd Burton, coming to you with another Beyond report on this Tuesday, August the 3rd, 2021. As always, if you like the content, please click a like, subscribe, and share. It does help the channel. We are growing here, and let's hit the ground running with some really interesting anthropological news. I read a study earlier today about the genetic origins of the Philistines, the great nemesis of ancient Israel. And from what I could gather, this built on older studies about the origins of the Philistines. And, of course, as many of you will know, they are not indigenous to the Levant. Um, Much of the genetic sampling points to what the ancient Hebrews called Kaftor and the islands. This, of course, being Crete. Excuse me. Um, this makes perfect sense because of what we find in the archaeology of Philistine cities, particularly those earliest of Philistine settlements. Their pottery is very reminiscent of the kind that you would have found in Crete and in the age of collapse, the Dark Age, the Greek Dark Age, as it were. And it's during this Dark Age period, at the end of the Bronze Age, the beginning of the Iron Age, that those displaced refugees from Crete and some of the other islands would end up in the southern portion of the Levant on the coast, and eventually become the Philistines, or taking that name with them, because their name does, of course, show up in Egyptian records amongst the sea peoples. The Pelishti are mentioned, and these are the Philistines. Um, this study would seem to be further confirmation that their origins are European, specifically East Mediterranean, Aegean, and not Levantine. Um, I don't want to get into it. You know, the Palestinians try to link themselves back to the Canaanites and the Philistines, and that's really just a lost cause. There's not a whole lot of historical connectivity, uh, uh, or otherwise, to make those kinds of assumptions about Levantine origins of the Philistines. Much less try and bolster a nationality out of it. But nonetheless, very interesting study on the Philistines. I'll put a link in the description to that if you want to take a look at it. Also ran across a really interesting article on vampirism in New England. Now, in New England in the early 19th century, there were some interesting outbreaks of vampirism that have been detailed in a number of papers and a couple of books. And many of those cases were linked to disease, specifically consumption. Now, I have never been one to uh, discount any sort of connection between vampirism and the disease. In fact, I've written on this topic, and I believe, I think I make a good argument for there being a disease connection. Um, probably the most um, Probably the most comprehensive analysis that I've ever done of this was in the chapter entitled Vampire Zero, an interview with a giant, where I look at not only the connection between vampires and giants, but also it's kind of an epidemiological approach to a supernatural disease that is having to do with the supernatural qualities of blood. I think that's less at play in this case of the New England vampire, specifically in Connecticut. That's the provenience. Uh, but nonetheless a very interesting read. Tells you a lot about the folklore in New England at the time and some of the lifeways of, of the rural people, and some of the abject scathing that the newspapers of the day gave to these rural folk. Um, there was certainly no love lost between the city and the country, um, amidst all of this. So, what else is going on in Burton Beyond? Quite a bit. Actually, this week, the Institute of Biblical Anthropology is having some massive sales, and um, I need to really enunciate that these sale prices are you're probably not going to see them for a long time, only because there are some things that I'm expanding in terms of course interaction and offering and perks and things like that. So that's going to cost a little more. Um, but I'm having a sale this week called the 101 sale. 101 is an introduction. The first part of that is that all of my certifications, biblical anthropology, biblical demonology, preternatural morphology, mythology, ancient Near Eastern civilization, Mediterranean civilization, they're all on sale. These 12 course modules, all on sale for the next 3 days for $101. That's right, $101. Um, you get a course package that um, at face price is $200 to $250. But I have run some sales because I want people to have access to this material. So if you've been thinking about taking one of these programs with me, I cannot stress deeply enough that now is the time to do that. I mean, you can do it any old time, but you're not going to find a sale price like $101 for 12 courses at the IVA for a long time, if ever again. So if you're new to the IBA and you want to take courses, if you're a student already, if you're one of my wonderful students and you have plans to take additional certifications and move on to graduate study, now would also be an excellent time to purchase another certification because you can go ahead and buy it and save. And then when you're finished with your current one, you can start on the next one. So it's really a win on a number of different fronts. And the other part of the 101 sale is that you can get my entire catalog, original books, edited volumes in ebook format for $101. So there's some really good deals that are not going to last long. Now's the time to jump on them. Of course, my books, my print books are on sale this week for 10% off. I'll put a link in the description for that. Got a few uh, appearances coming up. Actually, this morning I just finished a wonderful discussion with Phil Baker on Reclaiming the Faith podcast, and we talked about the Apocrypha, Septuagint, the Giants. Why Christians should care about the Apocrypha, whether it's the Dead Sea Scroll material or infancy Gospels in the Christian era. There's covered a lot of ground in a short period, and it was a lot of fun. So you want to tune in for that. I think he said he's going to post that. He'll finish with editing and post it in a couple of weeks. And tomorrow night, I will be returning to Revolutionary Radio with my good friend Rob Skiba, and we will have an excellent, no doubt, discussion on mythology and the biblical worldview. And for those of you who are also still waiting on the lecture that I'm going to do on the video lecture I'm going to do on mythology, hang tight. I found some more stuff to add to it. That's why we didn't have it yesterday. But you can still, although there were some free giveaways, you can still purchase a ticket to that lecture for $12. And I'll put details to all this stuff in the description. But be on the lookout for lots of things happening in Burton Beyond, new books coming out. There's just a whole lot going on. And again, uh, I would love to have you as a student if you're so inclined. Just prayerfully consider that, because that not only helps you, but it helps me sustain what I'm doing with the IBA. And those student numbers are growing. Let's keep them coming. You're not going to get this kind of instruction in too many places, and certainly not from this point of view, certainly not for these prices. So, with that, stay tuned for more Burton Beyond information, and we'll talk to you soon. Godspeed.